And welcome to another episode of the Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. I'm your host, Noah Love, and today we're going to be talking more about college football, another SEC Media Day. Lane Kiffin is on the stand today. So we'll talk about that in a couple comments he said. We will also be talking about Pat Narduzzi saying the ACC is better than the Big Ten. What? We will talk about that. We will also be talking about NFL, and I will give you my, as of right now, as of this moment, 2026 2027 Super Bowl contender. And we will be talking about, are we in for CFP expansion again? Let's get into it right here on the Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. I want to start with Lane Kiffin in a couple comments. And just a couple quotes from his SEC Media Day. Obviously, he got up there, took about 30 minutes on his opening statement so he wouldn't have to field a whole bunch of questions. Kind of smart, not gonna lie. But there is one thing that he brought up that we are going to discuss. He said, Lane Kiffin says that the CFP committee needs to get to a point where they can, and I quote, can actually look at teams and say that team that is 9-3 with their schedule is a better team than that 11-1 in a different conference. Here we go again. That's just my interpretation. Here we go again. Why is it in the SEC? Oh well, you were 9-3. We should still get big time consideration to go to the play. No, and I've been thinking about and I'm gonna segue this a little bit because obviously in my off time I've been watching a lot about the BCS era and and how the presentation was better and all that, and whatever the case may be. Bro, the BCS era was a crazy time. I the Compared to this playoff era. And we are now at a point in college football where we're saying you even though you're 9-3, you can lose to three unranked teams. You should still be in the playoff because of the conference you played in. That's where we are with this. It's it, it's laughable. It's laughable. Whereas where you were in the BCS era, if you lost a game, a singular game, your season was over. Or if you got in with a loss, it had to be okay. They lost to so and so. They lost by this many points. They lost this early in the season. If you lost late in the season, you weren't going. Kind of the same way with the 4-team CFP system. I mean, if you lost a game, you could get back in, but you'd essentially have to run the table. Like, we went from that to this. And look, I was all for expansion, but I said expand it to 8 and leave it there. And I said 12, and I guess 12 is okay. Now we're just, what are we doing? But what is it with the SEC in their 9-3 teams are so much better than the 11-1 teams? I understand if they're saying, okay, our 9-3 is better than a G6, like a JMU going 12-1. Okay, I understand Texas was better than JMU, but that's like last year. But that's like a large disparity. That it, you know, he wasn't referencing that. He's saying This team's 9-3 is better than a Big 12's 11-1. Now hold on now. What makes the SEC at this moment in time so much better than every other conference in America in the P4? The playing field is level. Sure, you can beat anybody. You also can lose to anybody. People talk about, well, the bottom of tier is better, like the Arkansas of the world, the Kentuckys of the world. Those teams. Hold on, I saw Arkansas last year go on the road to Memphis and lose, and Memphis is American Athletic Conference G16. I saw that happened. So I don't understand. I said it. I said Big Ten I think is better right now in terms of the top heavy. I said, but the depth I would give that to the SEC. But I think it's close. I don't think there is that much of a difference. Maybe 6 through 11 in the SEC than is the Big Ten. What makes that 6 through 11 in the SEC better than the 6 through 11 in the Big 12? This notion that you want a 9-3 team in the CFP over another 11-1 P4 team is crazy. Win your games and you'll get in. It's literally that simple. With a 12-team playoff, win your games. You've in this era. Okay, last year 10-2, depending on who you beat, it get you in. I know there was a couple of exceptions like a Vandy or Utah, but for the most part, you win your games. You're in control of your own destiny. In this day and age, you're in control of your own destiny. People say the reason Texas didn't get in, well, they lost to Ohio State. No, the reason they didn't get in is because they lost to 4-8 Florida on the road and was thoroughly outplayed the entire game. That's why they lost. That's why they didn't make it. If you don't lose that game, you can lose to Ohio State and Georgia. You're probably in the CFP at 10-2. Like, win the games you're supposed to win. Like, the reason I will say this in the Big Ten, the reason USC didn't make it last year at 9-3. Oh, yes, they lost to Notre Dame. We understand that. Yes, they lost to Oregon. They lost to Illinois on the road, which I predicted, coming off of a 63-10 beatdown. Illinois lost 63-10. USC lost that game. There are so many you can control. Why does everything have to be ESPN, strength of schedule, FPI? Those are just numbers in computers, and those don't really matter to me. I'm gonna be real. What matters is what you've done. Obviously, who you played go into it, right? Who you played, who you beat, but also who you lost to. You Yes, you can have a great resume, but you can also have a lot of bad losses, which prevents you from getting in. You could have a weaker resume, but you could still potentially get in because you handle business against the teams you were supposed to and then lose to those teams. I just think that this was one of his quotes at the press conference, and I just think it's ridiculous how they're pushing, like what they're pushing. He also had he also had some other quotes, but that was the number one quote that I thought I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. Like I didn't like I had to talk about that because that to me in this day and age where you there's 12 teams, win the team you're win the game you're supposed to win. I mean, I go back to 2009 BCS era. You had you have five undefeated teams, and three of them did not go to the national championship game because there was only two slots. What a time to have a playoff, right? So I just thought I just think that's ridiculous. Now let's move on to Pat Narduzzi's comments talking about how the ACC is better than the Big Ten. He said it's better than the Big Ten. It's got more skill, and I said that for years, and I'm gonna stick to my guns. Brother man, where the ACC I and I la and I'm going to go back to last year. The ACC was more comparable to the American Athletic Conference than it was the Big Ten. That's just the truth of it. Out Miami, okay, they were good. After that, they were great. After that, that conference was a disaster. We could just be. They were a disaster. Georgia Tech started off 9-0, but then at the end of the year they couldn't stop a cold. Or I think it might have been 9-1, wherever the case, or 8-0, and then they couldn't stop a cold the rest of the season. Clemson, who was my preseason ACC championship pick, disaster of a season, just as bad as you can get. Louisville was okay. They were Virginia, I mean, they were kind of, they just handled their business. But they weren't a great team last year. They were fine. The coach, they did a good job, right, in getting to the ACC title game. I mean, for goodness sake, the ACC champion last year was five-loss Duke. You're not going to get a five-loss Big Ten champion. And then, they're not, and even if you want to say, well, their skill players are better, that's not where you win in football. You win in the trenches. So even if he wants to make that, even if Pat Narduzzi wants to make that argument, you don't win. Your skill positions are important. I'm not saying that they're not. But the reason you win is because of the trenches. Why did Indiana win? They had the best offensive line and one of the best defensive lines. Why did Miami make it to the national championship game? Same thing. You could have made the argument they had the best defensive line in the country. Why was Ohio State so dominant last year? Until the end of the season where they ran up on Indiana and Miami because they dominated the line of scrimmage. Why was Texas not as good as people thought they'd be? It's because they weren't as good at offensive line as the previous year. That that's what it is. So I just I think that's ridiculous to say. There's no to say the ACC's big. If he was at the ACC's better than the Big 12, even though last year I don't think that was the case. Okay, that's comparable, but to say they're better than the Big 10, that's just not that's not true. Okay, we're going to stay with college football. We're going to Are we in for CFP expansion again? Heather Danich was on Get Up, I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago. I think it may have been Tuesday, talking about uh, how everybody, the coaches, they'll have there will be a meeting in September. They'll get the information in August, and then the deadline to make for expansion for potential expansion, and I believe it will be 2028. Will be December 1st. That's what it would be. So so yeah, we do. I think we're in for expansion. I do. I think we're. I hope. I hope I'm wrong, but I do think we're going to expand to probably 16. 24 would just ruin the sport. That'd just be ridiculous. I think. Look, stop it at 16. Like, just stop it at 16. I mean, I've already said this with you guys. I think we were fine at 8. I think 8 would have been fine. You don't need the first round buys. Okay, if you've got the best 8, I go best 8 teams, have everybody play their regular season conference title games, and then just pick the best 8 at that point. And then if you want to play these games at bowl sites, or if you want to go those quarterfinals at if you want to go with the quarterfinals at home sites, and then if you want to go to the semifinals with maybe neutral site, and then the national championship game is obviously neutral site. That's fine. That's fine as well. Uh, I I thought 8 teams was best. 12, you're in a precarious position. The first round buys as well. People are complaining about that. Although Signetti, I mean, just the excuse killer. So yeah, I just think we're probably gonna be in for expansion again. I will say this: there was no reason why Division 1 cannot get their playoff right, but Division 2 can, Division 3 can, FCS can, NI NAIA can. Like like this is ridiculous. You should be able to get your play. You should be able to get your playoff right. It, but the NCAA, I guess they don't want to mess with the people's money. I guess. So the NCAA need to come in, because let's be honest, that's how this all works. You look at the bet if you look at all the college athletic tournaments, they're done by the NCAA. Whether it's football, basketball, college basketball, it's done by the NCAA. And that's why, are there controversies every year? Yes, but they're not as big. But it is a better system to crowning a national champion than whatever this is. So yeah, this is just my opinion. 24 teams will be a disaster. You're going to and I'm really I just have to say this again. 2014 will be a disaster for a magnitude of reasons. Number one, you're almost devaluing the regular season because, okay, 24 teams, that's for a playoff. Like, I'm not. The games would matter, but only to a certain point. They would not have that do or die feel anymore. And you've kind of already sort of lost that. Whereas if you lose one game, oh, okay, you can just bounce back. Also, I'm not trying to see 4 lost teams in the playoff. This is not the NFL. What we are they are trying to make college football the NFL, and it's not that. NFL is 30 plus professional teams on the same level, and they have a great system, head to head, all that. That's not what college football has been. It's not what it is. College football will never be the NFL. It just won't. You don't even have a commissioner to govern this stuff. So the conference commissioners are kind of just out there doing whatever. College football's not the NFL. Stop trying to make it like the NFL. It's really that simple. I'm going to say this. The only reason you're going to 24 teams is because of money. 24 teams is not going to make college football a better product. It's money. And until we get the money out of college football, nothing's going to change. You have these greedy old people who have who don't know how to run this sport and don't know how to just run anything at this rate. This system of college football is really not that. From the scheduling to the calendar to the playoff, there are so many issues right now. NIL too, and not having any governing, we there's no rules and regulations with that. It's the wild college football and is essentially the wild west. And really college athletics in general kind of the wild west. There's no rules and regulations anymore. You can pay players however you want. You can tamper with players and not get punished for it. It's just a whole mess. But 24 teams, we know it will be a disaster. Fox would love 24 teams because they would get to now broadcast playoff games and they get to have money. ESPN don't want it to go 24 teams because they want all that playoff money to themselves. You've got the Big Ten that wants 24. I think the ACC that wants 24. I think some coaches want 24. The coaches wanting 24. I'm pretending to be shocked because they think it's going to save their jobs. Like, no. So yeah, 24 teams. I just think it would be a disaster disastrous for the sport. I already think 12 is too much, but that's just my personal opinion. I think there should be something special about when you're playing for a national championship. That means you are really the cream of the crop of that season. And I think there's something special about that. I just don't think that this should not be middle school or high school where everybody gets to get into the playoff. That's not what this should be, and that's my opinion. That's just my opinion, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Now, we now switch gears to the NFL. We are what 49, 48 days away from the NFL, and I'm going to give you my Super Bowl contenders right as of right now. Let's start in the NFC. I'm going to give you the Rams. This is the easiest one. Traded for Miles Garrett, got Trent McDuffie, Stafford coming back, Puka Nakua, still have Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams as a back. They are they're loaded. They made sure, excuse me, they made sure that they they last year them being that close and them seeing Seattle win it, that really I think pissed them off. And so them going out and being aggressive and making the moves that they've made. I think they're the Super Bowl favorites probably by far. To to be honest, based on the roster, you upgraded. Obviously, the special teams, I expect that to be better, but your real main weakness was the secondary. You've fixed that up, and then you were already great on the defensive line. You added generational talent like Miles Garrett, who's coming off of getting the sack record, and he's looking to play meaningful football. I mean, boy, and the Super Bowl's in LA this year. You're really trying to make a go at this. Um, I also think the Eagles, and it's kind of just based off the talent that they have. Sean Mannion as the offensive coordinator, we'll see. I still believe in Jalen Hurts. Still believe they have a good offensive line. Saquon Barkley. Yes, they lost AJ Brown, but I do believe Devontae Smith will take a leap to really be that number one wide receiver. Um, I won't say it'll be like he'll have a JSN like season, but it could be his breakthrough could be similar towards that. Makai Lemon as well, really good. I think they're really good at the defensive position. I just think the Phillies got a lot of talent, top top end talent, the high end talent that they have. I think is where the high end talent that they have. It, I I like Philly in terms of that Super Bowl talk. And really, I'm gonna be honest, I think Philly's gonna always be there. And I think the one kryptonite of the Rams, honestly, has been Philly. They have not been able to beat Philly. When you look at the playoffs, you look at the regular season, even last year. What you saw what happened in week 3. I think it might have been week 3 or 4 that it looks like the Rams are going to beat them. They're up 26-7, and then Philadelphia just mounts this incredible comeback to win the game, and they end up winning the game. So I think Philly this season, less distractions, better coaching in the building. I think they'll be a Super Bowl contender. Seattle. I am going to go with the Seahawks. This one was tough for me because I was looking at a few teams. I was looking at Seattle. Um, Funny enough, uh, I think in the NFC North, I was looking at could maybe Detroit or Chicago. I mean, the NFC North. That to me is the most interesting division in football. But then I look at, okay, do I put the Niners here as well? Um, I'm not going to. I think Seattle. I do think them losing pieces like a Kenneth Walker is so huge. But they still have Darnold. They still have Mike McDonald. They still have a good amount of that defensive core coming back. I think they'll be in the mix again. Will they be 14-3 good? I don't think so. But do I think they'll be good enough in terms of being a contender and defending their crown potentially? I do think so. But do I think they take a step back? Yeah. But just because they take a step back doesn't mean that step back doesn't mean they're still contenders. I think that's kind of attributed to how good they were last season. So yeah, I like the Rams, Eagles, and the Seahawks in the NFC in terms of my contenders. Now in the AFC, I've got more. I'm going to kick it off with the Baltimore Ravens. Jesse Minter comes in. They have Lamar Jackson. They still have that run game, right? They signed Trey Hendrickson to get a pass rusher, a legit pass rusher, which is the one thing I think they've needed. I think defensively, they're going to be better reloaded. I think Baltimore, they are, I really do feel like they are bound to be back in the mix this year in terms of being a Super Bowl contender. And also, you have to take into account Lamar. I think he's going to want to bounce back. I think Lamar's going to bounce back easy. Him being the 69th player, everything, or anything in the NFL top, that's just ridiculous, in my opinion. But yeah, I think the Ravens bounce back. And I think they're going to be contenders. I have the New England Patriots as a Super Bowl contender. Why? Year three, I believe Drake may maybe the passer rating and all that. The Super Bowl slump could be a thing. The Vrabel drama. How much does that affect this team? I don't know, but you give him a real number one in AJ Brown. It's year two for Travion Henderson, and we saw how explosive he was in the second half of the season last year. The offensive line. I think the strength of this team is still the defense. I think the defense could be. Last year they were very underrated. I think they could, and everybody saw in the playoffs how good they were. I think they could be even better this upcoming year. I think that is the strength of the team. And I think, look, defense wins championship. I've always believed in that motto and that saying. And I believe New England are back to being Super Bowl contenders. And I think they will be again. In their own division, I go Buffalo. The reason I go Buffalo is strictly Josh Allen. And I think they're just going to be there anytime if Josh Allen's the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, they're going to be in that mix. But in terms of the roster, I still don't love it. But I just think Josh Allen is that good to where he's going to be able to carry it. Offensively, because of him and because of James Cook, they'll be fine running the ball. It's the defense that you worry about. And people are asking, is this the year for Buffalo? After last year, I genuinely don't know because there was no better chance. No Burrow, no Jackson, no Mahomes. You looked at the past. You said, look, they beat Jacksonville barely, right? But they did it. The Denver game, they had it. And then they just sort of like gave it away. They made so many mistakes in that game, so they don't even get to the AFC Championship game. So yeah, I do think them just having Josh Allen for me, they're going to be a contender and always in the mix. I know I now go to the Houston Texans. As a Colts fan, this kind of hurts me, but if they got anything in terms of their quarterback play last year, they'd be in the Super Bowl. My only question is how good is CJ Stroud going to play? If he plays well, they're a contender. They got a really good shot. If he doesn't, oof, because that's my only concern. They got a good run game, got good weapons. The defense, that front, that that front four, front seven, you can make the very strong argument it's the best in football. And you can make the argument they have the best pass rushing tandem in football and Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. And so I look at all that and say, Houston, the way D'Amico Ryans coaches and motivates his team and how they are defensively, I I I look at them and say, look, if CJ Stroud even shows flashes of the old CJ Stroud. The AFC's in trouble because defensively they can win a game on their own. They can just shut you down with the amount of sacks they can get, the takeaways they can get. So yeah, I think Houston is a Super Bowl contender. And then to wrap it up, the Broncos. Bo Nix, year 3. Think he improves under Sean Payton. I would, yeah, give him Jalen Waddle with that receiving core so he has a bona fide number one. My one thing for Denver will be the run game. How good is the run game? But defensively, look, that front four. Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, guy in the interior. Woo! I mean, that defense, you're looking at Surtain. I think Jahab Barron could have a better year. Hafanga is really good. They went to the AFC Championship game last year, and to be honest, I think if Bo Nix is playing, they win it, and they're in the Super Bowl. I truly do believe that. But yeah, to me, I think the AFC has more contenders. I think the AFC there's more the AFC is a bloodbath because I think they're just it's a deeper conference. I think compared to the NFC where their top teams I think are more top heavy. They're more of a top heavy conference at the moment. But yeah, I that's just how I feel about it. I think I'm really excited for the NFL because I really do think it has a chance to be a very, very fascinating season. All right, everybody. This has been an episode of the Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until the next time, see ya.